I was touring up through the Northwest Territories in Canada this past weekend, and there was a lot of places where there was dead trees, like pretty much as far as the eye could see. Mostly from the forest fires that are all over the place up there. So I thought it'd be cool. It's been on my list actually for a while to do a dead tree for my game to have as an asset. So we're gonna do a dead tree using some reference from some photos I took over the weekend here. So I like this guy right here. This nice tree. It's not quite at the perspective though we need. So I've got some couple other photos here that are a little bit more at the kind of isometric kind of perspective of sorts that we're after. So I'm gonna snag this guy just with a selection. Oh, might take a little bit playing around to get this. Mm, play with the threshold there. What have I done? No. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. There we go. Let's try upping the threshold just a bit. Oh, too much. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is first take it out. Then try the upper part's kind of easy because it's got the clouds here. Up here I could probably up the threshold a little bit actually. Oh gosh. That kind of... Let's try upping that a little bit more and see what happens here. That worked pretty good for getting all the little twigs and branches though. So now let's deselect some stuff. What the... Oh, there we go. I'd hit cap locks on my computer and it was messing up the hotkeys. Alright, I think I'm going to deselect everything below that. Uh, no, that did not work. There we go. Okay, good. Now let's go back in. Let's knock the threshold back. Whoops, I'm pressing the wrong key. Oof, this might be hard to get a good selection on. Oh gosh, what have I done? Somehow I switched to the zoom tool. It's not working very well. I'm going to add the tree, kind of the selection here. And then let's slim down to that. There we go. Yeah, the top looks great. Okay, we'll get rid of that. Whatever the heck. Looks like another tree in the background there. Okay, get rid of this guy. Sweet. Let's try, I'm going to try selecting the outside. Might work a little better. Yeah, there's so much going on. Like, to get this selection is going to be pretty darn tough. So I'm going to just rough hand it. I'll kind of go around here. I don't know if Photoshop does it. I haven't used it in years, but when I did use it, I remember compared to the GIMP select tool, it didn't like. I'm pretty sure if you let go of the selection, it kind of just completed it, or at least you'd just be left still with the lasso tool. But this has like you can just click and do a nice straight line without having to swap. Maybe it does. Maybe Photoshop has that feature now, but I like that quite a bit. Not as useful for organic things like this, but for like taking out buildings or a mix of organic things with a lot of hard lines, it's super nice. Okay, probably have to speed this up a bit because it's actually taking quite a while to cut this guy. Probably not worth it either. Okay, I'm gonna come back around and we'll get rid of that. Sweet. Do the other side. It's kind of a whole cluster there, which will kind of just zigzag around. Good stuff. Okay, we'll get rid of that. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. So I think from working from that, I'll probably do most of the erasing. All right, so we'll grab that. We're gonna size it up. Yeah, probably about there is good. And then we'll come back to some of the other reference here. Looking for a decent tree to kind of look at. Which one of these is better? It's about the same. Okay, so I'm gonna leave. Yeah, we'll I think take this out. Um, and then I can just reference these trees kind of for the angle. Okay, so I'm gonna pop. I'll just duplicate this actually, and then we'll work on top of it. Layer to image size, good. Okay, and then probably gonna work with a calligraphy brush, I think. Cool. So first of all, this is something I've always found tough. Like, so you have a tree, you have a long, skinny object, right? And you've got your perspective where you're looking top down at it. Um, so the trees obviously taper as they go up, but then things look skinnier when you look at them from a distance, right? Like they look smaller. So if you're looking down at a tree, the bottom of the trunks almost like it's weird because they kind of just stay almost like a static width. Although looking at this, which is pretty much straight on, I mean, he does get skinnier a little bit, yeah, to the top. These aren't huge trees, but like this width here seems almost the same as here. They do still get, you can see the tininess of the trunk kind of as you get to the top still, but like this should be thicker for the most part than up here, I'd think. Then again, these are like poplars, I believe, and they're pretty consistent in width, but um, yeah. Anyways, we'll well, so it kind of stays somewhat consistent. Um, so I'm trying to like look. Why does this look like we're looking top down? Honestly, I think you could show me this tree and say like just this one here. and tell me it's a side profile view, and I'd pretty much believe you. Same with this one. Other than, then maybe the lighting is a little bit more on the top of it, like you can, but, okay, well, we're just gonna go for it. Gonna erase out a lot of this stuff that's not needed. Might be able to quick select some of these spots now. Threshold a little bit. Not really. Down here probably can. Okay, we'll just erase. I don't think that's going to work very well. Doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to go over top of a lot of this. Okay, not looking too bad. Sweet. Okay, I think so. Let's see. Now let's do some drawing on top. We'll give the trunk a little bit of a base kind of here. Get rid of this other one that was over top of it. Oh, what's this? I never noticed. I wonder, what is that? Is that like a fungus, maybe? No, I mean, I'd say it's just like chipped off wood, but it's kind of a weird pattern to just have. Maybe a fungus? Having some fungus on it would be sick, though. Actually, then again, the problem with sometimes you do that because this tree is gonna get repeated so many times, right? Like it's a if you have you could have a variant with fungus, but like every single one ends up having like mushrooms right here or something. It looks really funny in game because you've got like 80 trees you've placed that are exactly the same, all with fungus in the same spot. Doesn't really work, which is something to keep in mind when doing actual game assets rather than just a pretty piece of art. It's got to meet a certain utility in the end. Ideally, it's still a pretty piece of art, though. Okay, it's kind of got the trunk there. So what's the deal? Did I cut this? Was this broken in this original? Okay, yeah. There's a top of the tree that I just don't have in the picture. Wonder. Looking at some of these other trees, trying to look at the more burnt ones like this. They still have like some leaves at the top. Generally, it looks like not necessarily, but like these guys. This one. All right. So, well, with that in mind, yeah, we'll shrink it down a little bit. Looking maybe too tiny. I don't know. Increase the width slightly. Okay, we're gonna make it not so tiny. Maybe like there. Okay, and that should give enough room to do a top here. Layer to image size, good stuff. Okay. Looking at the reference on the left, just kind of trying to snag some branches here and there, and copying them. Good. Okay. So this kind of has, looks like my lighting was from one side. I'm trying to make that a little bit more top down. The game actually does have a day and night cycle in it at this point, which doesn't really affect, it doesn't affect the actual lighting of the assets, but has kind of a hue shift that gets applied to them. And there's shadows, so it looks like the lighting should be coming from certain points. But let's try to keep it kind of a somewhat top down, but you know, kind of globally lit. Try to go over some of these twigs here. Okay, that's pretty good. Biggest issues are these branches all along the way. Try to clean most of them up. Northwest Territories were a beautiful place to check out. Yeah, the dead trees were nice, the waterfalls are nice, the living trees were nice, a bunch of bison and such. The Mackenzie River was great to see. Um, Yellowknife, the capital, is beautiful, like kind of like a small port town on Great Slave Lake. Um, Pretty far up north there. It's not, yeah, port town. It looks like one to me, anyways, being from the prairies, surrounded by lakes and massive ones at that. It's like houseboats and pontoon planes and sailboats and stuff. Okay, I think we're just gonna have to kind of clean up most of this like that. Whoops, flip the canvas. Better be careful, this video is probably already almost getting too long, and we're just kind of getting started. Takes longer to cut out a tree than you'd think. Okay, good stuff. Let's grab this tone maybe. I don't know what this is. I'm gonna kind of plop it on some other spots here though. Looks cool. this up. Okay, I think I'm going to double this. Duplicate it a few times. That'll help just tighten up some of those thinner branches there. Oh gosh, what have I done? Oh, there we go. Reveal some of the artifacts as well. Very blue looking, maybe a little too blue. Might need to hue shift it. I'm also going to switch to a textured brush now. Thinking maybe this one. I'm going to change the angle to be like that. There we go. All of this light blue stuff needs, like this sky basically is what it is, needs to go. Otherwise it's going to look pretty funny in game. Alright, we're going to play around with the color colors. Hue saturation. Let's do this. Make it easier to see which hue it is. It is definitely blue. Which I guess, do we want it that blue? I don't know. Cancel. I mean, it's not bad. There's some issues, I think, with these little branches. Colors, hue saturation. Might want to lighten it slightly. Drop the saturation a little bit. Whoops. Really shifted the hue there. Okay, I don't want it to go towards purples. I kind of want there to be more oranges in it a little bit, but I don't want to go all the way over there. That blue is nice. Hue shift towards the greens just ever so slightly. Yeah, we'll lighten it a bit. Drop the saturation some. Okay, that's not bad. And then I might... There's... Obviously it's too dark up here, or down here compared to the... I think I do need to get a little bit of orange in there or something. Let's hop over here. Just grab that middle color, which actually ends up being a bit of a violet, but a sort of desaturated one. There's all this like blue kind of hue on this, like obviously it's a hue, haze kind of going on this stuff though, and that's not great. I'm gonna lock it. Grab this and just, oh yeah, there we go. Kind of darken that up a bit. Oh yeah, that's the strat right there actually. Let's just do darken all these branches up a little bit. Okay, now let's unlock that. Reveals a lot of stuff we don't want. Yes, kind of. Okay. Top's looking decent. I'm just gonna work my way down from top and bottom and then hopefully clean up along the way. He's got quite a pixely kind of look to him, which is I want to go over most branches. Maybe should have. I don't know if I probably because from copying the layer, but also the selection. Maybe should have added some tweak the aliasing or something. Okay, there we go. That's looking kind of slick. Connect this branch. Oh, this was kind of nice. There was like a branch coming off forward. I'm pretty bad for that when I do these trees. I'm like forget to do bad or branches coming at you. You just like end up drawing a bunch of branches off to the sides as if a tree was a 2D object. Yeah, let's get rid of this. There we go. Good stuff. Whoa. Okay, I'm getting a little lost in the details here. How are we looking? How's this tree gonna hold up for an asset? It's not bad. I'm feeling like I haven't done enough artistic kind of like work on it. Like there's not. It's actually just a lot of photo at the moment. Which I mean maybe doesn't matter too much as long as I don't want it to look. It's got you don't want it to look like photoshopped in, especially would not fit with the rest of the objects. So, but this is actually going to probably take a while to really clean this up properly. So I guess it might just be a longer video. I might just have to accept that. starting to look kind of clean from the branches below this point. This middle section's looking pretty rough. I think we need to go over with some. Okay, we'll have a branch here. This is a nice solid branch right there. There's kind of a branch here. Different value. Okay, we got one here, 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 here. Ooh. Oh, I think I just, what did I do there? Back up here, try to keep the focus on getting these branches good rather than getting lost in the other details. Yeah, my dialogue for these logs is, well, it's not great by any stretch. These videos are, they're a work in progress for sure, but I'm trying to work on it, so I'm just gonna, might end up saying some odd things or getting really off topic here, but I'm gonna try talking a bit more, see how it goes. The game, I've been working on multiplayer lately, so trying to get switching to a client server kind of architecture. Um, it's pretty close. It's tough to do. Just using I don't even know what I'm saying. That if I have this POSIX sockets on Linux at the moment, I guess. Which I think I don't know how that deals when you get to Windows even, to be honest, but we'll figure it out when we get there. Yeah, I've been working on a little bit stuck on that for a while, but hoping to at some point here start making some actual like gameplay kind of devlogs, but truthfully there isn't a lot of gameplay to show off. It's kind of next on the list after the multiplayer gets in there. Alright, still down here looks the worst. This right here is probably the weakest spot. Okay, let's look. Okay, over here is probably now the worst. Clean all this up. Zoom out again. Let's see. Okay, down here looks pretty rough. It's not very readable. Okay, yeah, it's starting to look pretty good. Um, Kind of try to work on some of these branches up here. And once again, I find myself without any dialogue, just painting away, which may be fine. Maybe it's not a big deal. Um, as long as it's entertaining. It doesn't. Well, it doesn't. Does it need to be entertaining? Probably. Ideally. I mean, realistically, there's not really any point in these logs. I mean, they're just kind of for me, I guess, in a way too. But it'd be fun to look back at on some point. But like, ideally, somebody watches them. Ideally, they're. You don't want to waste people's time, right? Like that's. Feel like they got something out of it, but um, yeah, process wise, like showing off processes too, I guess, which I don't really know. Like my processes are, I feel like they're getting dated. Um, I'm doing the way things were done like 8 years ago a lot of the time uh, for art and programming, probably even further back since I'm rolling my own engine. But like I don't know, like modern workflows probably starting to look like throw in do a sketch, do some AI gen over top of it, and then um, yeah, I don't know, kind of use that to get some stuff to work with, and then yeah, and then I don't know, refine over that. Maybe there'd be 3D involved potentially. Depends what you're doing. Like a tree asset like this, well, probably just photograph properly. Kind of what I'm doing. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Like what like if you go to like a professional studio or something, how are they doing trees these days? Like, do they have somebody? When are you gonna have somebody paint it every time? And I mean, it doesn't necessarily need. Who cares? Maybe in some ways how the pro studios are doing it. Because one thing is, I think that an advantage a solo dev or indie has over them is you don't have to do things super methodically because you're not trying to like manage the efficiency of a whole bunch of people. You're just kind of your thing. You still need to be efficient, but you don't need to have like a standardized workflow that fits across multiple folks. Not uh, or expectations of workflow kind of thing. So you can just kind of do what works best for you. But you still want to be efficient. Like there's a reason why some things become kind of the standard is because they are so good, useful. But then it's also like you're trying to be all efficient, but then the joy of you want to be enjoying doing it because otherwise, what's no point. Um, so efficiency can be pretty fun though. Like trying to that process of like improving your workflow and like I've often found actually some of my favorite painting experiences are like being on the clock, kind of like playing a video game or something and you're doing like a time challenge. Like it adds a game to it, makes it fun. Um, Even though it's like almost seems the opposite, right? Like it's like oh you're just number crunching to try and get a lot done, which could be one's reasoning and probably would take some of the fun out of it. But if you just treat it like you're playing a game, it can be a pretty good time. That's looking pretty solid. There's a lot of spots that are not great. It's definitely gonna, I'd say, placeholder level, which is the point of this in the first place. Um, I don't know, like in game, is it gonna look weird in some spots? Probably. The top downness of it feels pretty side profile-y. But again, like looking at these, it's hard to say. Like if I look at this tree here, oh man, that tree, Why does it look... Does it look top down even? There's some spots that you can tell that you're looking at the top in a way, kind of like right here. Here, maybe the way the branch is kind of tapering or like getting smaller in that direction tells you that it's going away from you, which is maybe a thing. Maybe I need to integrate some branches that are going off into the distance a bit more. Or some that are coming forward even. Make sure we're seeing, it needs to look like we're looking at the, like there's an underside kind of behind us. Or behind us? That's not right, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, it's looking a little top down. I mean, we are looking at the, I added some kind of sort of trunk here, which definitely looks top down like. Adding some lightness to the tops of these might help. If I go back to this brush, angle, good stuff. Add some lighting to this left side will help. I'm gonna lock the layer a little bit. I'll grab this brush. Try to get a bit of a side rounding on it. Look like it's got some wrapping form there. I think the bottom part needs a little bit maybe more light on some of the base. This actually down here looks so muddied. Like there's so many twigs and stuff, probably from other plants too that were in the image. That's not great. Try to clean some of that up. Up here it's not as bad because there wasn't as much debris just kind of to go around. Go back to this brush, I think. I mean, that's pretty good for now, I think. I'm going to just try to do a little bit of artifact cleanup, and then I think we'll call it on this guy for now. Probably end up coming back later to it, like pretty much all of these. Again, they are placeholders. They're kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like initial concept slash placeholder. Um, in a way, yeah, it's like the first pass concept art, but then also acts as a placeholder in the game. And then, so it kind of, so when you're fleshing out and making the game, you actually have an asset to work with, and then it also acts as concept art, which at some point I might switch to 3D assets. Um, and I'll have, even though the game will be initially 2D, essentially like everything will be concepted out for doing 3D. If I get like this is this is theoretical, quite down the road. But there's some things I kind of know I'll have to go 3D, like the player. The player pretty much has like doing. I was thinking about this, like doing 2D, doing animations for kind of an MMO style where you can like you don't just have one static character and like you need a lot of frames, like a crazy amount, to do all the animations if you want it to be somewhat dynamic. Um, and the player doesn't have a static appearance. Like you can equip different clothing or change your gender and stuff like that. Um, you need like a stupid amount of frames if you're going to do it by 2D. So either like hand painted, and it's just not practical. So either gonna have to go 3D, where it actually character in the game is 3D, um, or you do the model in 3D, and then you do kind of like do images captured from it at all the angles and like rig it and then get every frame just by taking screenshots or not screenshots. I don't know, using cameras and stuff in Blender or whatever to get those get those frames. So it might be somewhere in the middle where I end up initially just doing that, where I model it out, do the frames, um, and then use that same model once I've added 3D rendering and things to the engine, um, and then just swap the player with the actual 3D asset in game. And then over time, maybe transition some of the other elements and stuff, doing the same thing. Oh, that's pretty good. I like that. I'm gonna save that, and we'll get that in game. Sweet. If you've listened to this log the whole way through, thanks for checking it out.